Welcome to the Express Boats State of Waterfowl podcast series, presented by Gros Savon Lodge. Join our host, Doug Miller, Executive Operations Manager at Gros Savon Lodge, wildlife biologist and passionate waterfowler, along with co-hosts, world champion duck caller Jim Ronquest and conservationist Kason Short. State of Waterfowl is designed to provide you, our audience, with data, valuable insight, and information gathered from our guests that will allow us to scientifically determine the state of waterfowl, the health of our resource. We understand that the most valuable asset that we have is our resource, and that is waterfowl. Without them, we do not have a season, commerce, purpose. Join us today as we dig deeper into what is the state of waterfowl.
Hey, welcome to another episode of State of Waterfowl series with Express Boats. We got the usual crew again here today. Got Kason Short. I see Kason's over at the farm there at Bill Byers, and got Jim Ronquest up in Stuttgart. You guys doing okay today?
Doing better than I deserve. I can't speak for Kason.
I know Kason's probably in the middle of rice harvest. I saw on Instagram where they fired the combines up the other day.
Yeah, we've got some rice knocked down, got some water standing out there too. A few of your favorite ducks sitting around our part of the world.
Yeah, I can't complain too much for you guys having this podcast at this time. I actually got off the boat from alligator hunting this morning, got a few tractors pointed in the right direction to roll some teal ponds, and y'all giving me a chance to soak up a little AC before we go back out this afternoon. So glad to be able to sit here and talk to y'all. We got a really cool guest this time. Got to go ahead and just straight out introduce him. We got Justin Martin on here today, and really cool guy. Most of you probably know him from Duck Dynasty, but he's got his hands in all kind of stuff. But most important, he's a passionate waterfowler. Justin, we're glad to have you on here today.
Well, thank you, Doug. I don't know about necessarily being a really cool guy, but here we are. I hang around some pretty cool people, but that's just who we are. And man, it's actually a privilege. I've kept up with this state of waterfowl thing and listened to the thoughts and the things that come out of it. For people that don't know, my background is a biology degree, so there's a lot of nerd tendencies to me. So to hear some of the things you guys talk about on here, I'm like, yeah, I'm in on that. Like that. I love data. Data is the one thing that can't lie about duck hunting. Duck hunters lie every day, but data doesn't lie. So that's the cool part of it.
Well, that's awesome. We can't wait to get into some topics tonight. And we actually talking to you a few minutes ago and looking at Instagram, kind of jealous. Looks like you've already laid a little bit of fur down kind of early. We haven't even fired the first shot at a teal yet, and you're already shooting deer in the country.
Oh man. Yeah. I spent last week up in Wyoming, up at 7J Outfitters. It's the 8th year in a row that I've been able to do that hunt. And man, I absolutely love it up there. I can see why people live there, but I don't know how they survive after November, because that place turns into a frozen tundra. And I see how tall those T-posts are on the side of the road, indicating just how deep that snow gets. And I'm a son of the South. I got to get out of there before that starts. I'd be like a blue-winged teal or gadwall or anything. It's time to roll. We can't be staying around here.
Well, if we knew you were going up there, I'd have gave you the key up there to the border so you could have let a few ducks start trickling down. So, anyway, so let's just jump off into the deal here. And Jimbo, maybe you can lead off with the answer to this question. Person that's tuning in right now is looking, and you got Justin with Duck Commander, and you got Jim Ronquest with RNT Calls. And what in the world would two competing people in the duck call industry want to do coming together on a podcast? So, Jim, why don't you just kind of tell us why you're here today?
Man, that's pretty simple. At the end of the day, we're all duck hunters. We're all driven by the passion to pursue fowl. The different tools we use to make that happen is notwithstanding. We all got to make a living, but I think a lot of people like to put competing brands at odds when we really got the same ideas top of mind. Sure, we want to sell some duck calls, but we really want to go duck hunting, and selling duck calls is a reason to go duck hunting. And that's what it comes down to. I've had the good fortune to talk to Justin and the crew he works with for several years, and never had a bad conversation. Had some pretty good times and some good chats at some of the shows. So it's all good. We're all in this together. And I think people forget that. You know, a lot going on here in Arkansas right now with some changes in some water management stuff. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole we won't go down. But bottom line is I would like folks to understand that we're all in this together, working together. We want to go duck hunting, want to have a good time. We want to take care of that resource so that those come from behind will have the same opportunities we've had as we move forward. So, man, it's not a competition. We just all want to make our own way.
Yeah, Justin, you talked about your background in biology. I actually didn't know that. That's kind of cool to know.
I didn't either.
Most of your, I guess, career in the waterfowl world, I would assume, is from North Louisiana. Is that where you've done most of your hunting?
Yes, this is where I grew up, born and raised, right here in West Monroe, Louisiana, and went to ULM. Didn't get too far. Treated college like a business decision. I looked at all the offers I had, and the one that offered me the most money is the one I took. So, it was just one of those kinds of deals. And when I started, I thought I wanted to be a doctor, and then I was like, I worked in a hospital for a little while. And I was like, man, sick people aren't very nice. I don't want to deal with this every day. So I figured, I was like, what can I do now to not lose any credits? So then I just migrated over into regulation biology, which was great because I grew up a hunter. I grew up in the outdoors. My grandparents took me every chance that they could. And that's how I grew up. I grew up hunting and fishing. Started out deer hunting, and eventually got to duck hunt when I was about 11 years old with some friends of my dad's, and have never really looked back from that point on. That deer hunting's fun and they taste good, but it ain't 20 mallards or gadwalls or shovelers. I don't care what the 20 of them is. If they get in the hole, they fair game. So, because that's who we are. Because, Jim and Cason up there kill all them things with green heads. By the time they get down here, they number brown left. So it's just, it is what it is. But that's part of being at the bottom of the river. But
now, I don't know. I get down that way a good bit. It don't take them long. I get there before I can. And back.
Yeah, we still have pretty good duck hunting. There's a lot of things have changed in Louisiana, just like they've changed everywhere. But overall, I think part of our success comes from being smarter duck hunters too. Getting that ride, the 60 days out of your system, and realize go when the conditions are favorable and let it rest when it ain't. And, catch up on office work and do whatever you got to do to keep your business going. And not be like hunt every day and then come try to do that and have to go to marriage counseling the first week of February, so take the time out you need and relax and rest. And, to echo what Jimbo said, look, there ain't nobody in this world happier for R&T than I am when they're having a great year, because odds are when they're having a great year, so are we. So, we're definitely, I've always, since I've become general manager of the company, I truly got in here and got to figure out and realize that for all of us, it's that old adage of rising tides raise all ships. And if we're doing well, they're doing well. And if they're doing well, we're doing well. And if we're all doing well, Echo's doing well. And you just name it. I got that. Hey, look, we're going to have a big cookout one day where we all get together, and everything's going to be good. And, this thing is a lot smaller than anybody would ever dream that it is. So if you are a horse's butt, it don't take long for all the good old boys to find out who the horse's butt is. And, life's too short for that. It's just, life's too short. I refuse to, I do everything I can to not make an enemy in this world. So, and I try to operate this business that same way. So, hey, we all, like Jim said, we all in this together. We're all, how do we make more ducks for future duck hunters to be able to chase, because I'm sure Jim can tell you just like I can, there is not one way that you can kill them that I ain't killed them. So, the days of seeing something new are over. So it's like, what now? Like, what's the next step in the progression of a hunter? And now the step is conservation. How do we make more of them, And that's kind of a cool progression to get to.
It is. You brought up a good point too that I'm guilty of not doing, is I still think I got to go every day, when really your smart move, if it's pouring down raining, it's easy to talk me into going to work. But at the same time, I think a lot of us would be better off if it's not going to happen and it's stale and it's one of them days it's 55 degrees and it's a high gray sky and there's no wind blowing. All you're going to do is go smarten up what's around anyway. So you probably as well go to work, go take care of some business, make sure the wheel bearings are packed in your boat trailer, and whatever you need to do, be ready for when the weather is ready. That was a really good point.
Yeah.
And your idea about getting everybody together for a cookout, I'm all in. That'd be a hoot. We do back in the old Great Outdoor Festival days, some of that kind of used to happen. It'd be kind of cool to get something like that going again.
Absolutely. Yeah. The gray days with a light east wind are made for taking your woman to the picture show the night before now. That way, that's like I say, you learn to be smarter. That's just, there ain't a duck worth an unhappy wife. I can assure you that. So I had figured that part of this out.
You are correct. And I have been blessed in that direction that she deals with duck season very well for the most part.
Amen. So does mine. I got a good one. She knows, but there's also time I like to make her a priority too, to let her know that I appreciate her being so understanding, if we will, during duck season. So,
along with that, in case I'm trying to cut you off, but Case and I had a conversation earlier, and something that I think we're hitting all around here that makes what we do important to us. And you're talking about our wives, we're talking about having a cookout and fellowship, is the culture that surrounds duck hunting, the duck hunting lifestyle. Back to Doug's first question. That's kind of what brings us all together. And like Justin said, if they're having a good year, we're probably having a good year, or vice versa. So, Casey, I know you had some good thoughts on that earlier this morning.
Well, that's what, you and I talked this morning. There's roughly 1 million duck hunters in America. I mean, there's just not that many people in our sport. So it's a small circle. It's like Justin said, you figure out who the good people are, and you figure out, who might not be, but we all run together. And you even take Louisiana and Arkansas, for example, we kill more mallards, but you look at total duck harvest, Louisiana is better than anybody most year in and year out, but if you go back and look at those long-term trends, when Arkansas kills ducks, Louisiana kills ducks. And it's, it's very, very closely related. And I think to y'all's point, it's the culture thing about duck hunting that makes it special. It's all of us being in that small circle, the friendships, the fellowship. I've killed some deer, and deer hunting's fine and all that, but man, you put me in a blind with some duck hunters killing some ducks, nothing's more fun.
You're right. We'll back up and rectify a point I made talking about greasing wheel bearings. If you buy a backtrack boat trailer with your new Express boat, the Vortex hubs don't have to be packed. They have a 100,000-mile warranty. So I want to make sure we get that out.
That is very true, because we have not packed a bearing at Gros Savant in a long time.
I was about to say, do Louisiana roads void that warranty? Or because, man, you cross that Red River over there in Shreveport, you in trouble. So,
I'll tell you another bad one. You want to talk about roads? It's funny how subjects jump around. But if you ever travel Interstate 55 from Memphis to the Missouri line, you can't find the lane you can talk in. It doesn't sound like your teeth are chattering.
Yeah.
The whole trip up there. And if your truck is empty, it's even worse. All the way to the Missouri line. And you get to Memphis and come west on 40, it's fine. But that stretch of 55 through there, it's rough. Anyway, back on track. Sorry, that rough road just kind of took me down the wrong
That's
direction.
what rednecks do, though. That's the good part about it, you know. Yeah, that thing feels like a dirt bike track. I've traveled it enough to know it. What they call it? Thing whoop-de-doos. That's what it feels like doing the whole time. Yeah,
many whoop-de-doos. You is correct. So, talking about duck season, I know y'all teal hunt a little bit in North Louisiana, maybe not quite like they do down in Doug's part of the world, but if y'all got them little blue zingers showing up around you?
we got a few of them hanging around. Some of the early harvested rice that there's a trend around Monroe, West Monroe, where they're growing a lot of organic rice. So they harvest it a little earlier. So no added fertilizers, chemicals, all that. And they, you know, a lot of them are hunters, so they dump the water right back on it. And those have some pretty good teal numbers already. So I would suspect this little, you know, I know teal are mostly, you know, photo period migrators. The length of day is their major determining factor, but also if it drops a couple of degrees, they'll pick up and move. So, you know, it's looking pretty good for opener up here, but the problem with us is we're a pit stop, just like you guys. We're not a final destination. So we'll kill them a day or two. And then we got about 3 or 4 days of good storytelling. And, you know, then it's, you know, you'll kill them a day or two again. And same old deal. It's hard to sustain it around here. And we didn't, you know, from Ida, we didn't get dumped with a bunch of water and all that. So we're still very dry. The river's within its banks. So there's just not a whole lot of places that ain't going to have a shotgun in it come opening day. So what we have, it won't take long to move them on down there to Doug. They'll just have a few less feathers in them. So Doug, we apologize for that in advance.
Y'all educate everything before it gets to us. So we got to up our game just to overcome all of y'all's mishaps. So,
well, that's the beauty about blue wings is they're only like 6 months. Yeah. Some of them 3, 4, 5, 6 months old. They ain't real slick just yet. So that's the beauty of them.
What was interesting this year is the numbers that showed up. Probably, I would say August 15th, we started seeing them show up, and you always see a couple of teal, but not the numbers we saw this year. And they've actually been hanging around for, almost 3 weeks now. So it's kind of been an unusual year. And Kason, I saw on Instagram today, did you have some mallards show up or something at your place today? Was that?
Yeah, they showed up over the weekend. A little bit of backstory there. Jimbo and I were talking last week. Started pumping water, I think Wednesday or Thursday of last week, and kind of took a few bets on when we first see ducks. Well, dove hunting Saturday morning, we started to see some blue wings show up. Our first day, 15 or so, turned into 30 by Saturday and a couple hundred by Monday morning. But there were 4 what we call eclipse mallards out there yesterday morning. Kind of sparked a little discussion about, you know, where do they come from? Are they migrators? Are they local? You know, Jimbo and I talked about it. Mike Brazier got involved a little bit in the discussion. I think it's kind of, I don't know, maybe split down the middle as to whether or not they migrated or just moved locally. But I know just this afternoon had 75 or so pintail mixed in. So definitely some other migrators besides just the blue wing are starting to move. So I don't know. What do you guys thought? Do you think they're wild? Do you think they're local? Jimbo, I know we talked some more. What is your opinion on them?
I don't know. It could go either way because every year teal season, you always, you'll all of a sudden hear no matter out in the swamp, but you ain't heard all year. You know, hen hit a lick or a lot of, one of my buddies from South Louisiana, every teal season, I get the phone call, man, Jimbo, we was in the marsh and I saw 2 speckle bellies, so there's always them really early migrants that just photo period and wherever they was hanging out. It's like, well, them guys are leaving. We're going to go with them. I don't know. I really don't. It could be either way because I think there's just a few. We probably raised just a few ducks that was cripples that healed up that made it, or somebody turned them out, or whatever. But I could argue either side of it myself. Chances are, because you hadn't seen them around all year, but you just got water, chances are they just kind of showed up from somewhere, maybe with a flock of teal.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
I would say
for sure, because just coming back from that northern part of the country, it's dry up there. So if something's looking for a place to go up there, it ain't it for them. I mean, that hole, them potholes are more like mud holes, or at least the ones I drove by. We hold more water in our parking lot after a rain. I'll say that, so it's one of those kind of deals. And, who knows where they come from, but we're the same way. You always see something weird during teal season that you're like, huh, and you always got to look in them bunches of blue wings, because there's liable to be one wide bill back in there with him that you're like, man, that's a big teal. No, he ain't no big teal. He's smiling at us. So that's the hardest part about blue wing hunting, is when they get mixed up and you're like, uh-oh. It's just, you really got to watch when they're coming in. That's why the whole time I'm just looking at them, making sure we ain't about to get in trouble here, because there'll be some juvenile pintail, like you said, or shoveler or gadwall, you name it. Then you just gotta look them over before you call a shot on them. It's just, but that's 4 mallards is cool, and they was all draped too. So who knows what in the world they do? That's crazy.
They'd shown up 3 weeks ago. I would absolutely think they're local, somewhere nearby, but they're just right on that edge of, they could have hitched a ride with another group, or they could have come from 5 miles away. But won't be many more weeks. We'll start seeing speckled bellies and everything else with them. So
I was going to bring that up, talking about seeing specks during teal season in the marsh. That always kind of impresses me, that they sneak across us before we even know they headed that way. But it'd be interesting. We'll have to get us a bet going amongst ourselves to see when we hear and see the first specks. And I'll go so far as to say I bet Doug sees them before we do, Casey.
Man, he's down there in a really predictable part of the world. In fact, he had one of the birds that we marked living in next to your blind last year, Doug, for just weeks at a time.
Yeah, he flew by a couple of times there, and I somehow missed him. So I guess I didn't have the right call for the day or something. But he snuck around me for a whole week. After I saw the map, I was like, man, that dude passed right over the blind. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that telemetry stuff, that's just very fascinating, where you can actually look in and see what they're doing. And we've all had conjecture over the years of what we think they do. That right there shows you what they really do. I think that my hat's off to you, Casey, for helping out doing that project.
It's been beneficial, a lot of fun, eye-opening. Pick your word to talk about it, but we touched on it a little bit there. Talking about the birds down in Doug's part of the world, predictability. I mean, they're boring how predictable they are. Same field, same spot, same corner. Man, they find a way to survive, and they do not deviate from that plan. Up here, Jimbo, as you would probably guess, they move around a lot more. I don't know if it's more habitat, maybe a little bit less pressure, more energy days. They can forage more. But the birds that get to Doug's world, they know where they can survive, and they do it year in and year out. So I'm gonna wager on your side. I bet he texts us about seeing specks before I text him.
Mm-hmm. The other cool thing too is pulling in it is that big area over there just east of West Monroe and Bastrop towards is that Jones, Justin?
Yeah.
And that's another one of them speckled belly hot spots right there. It fills up with them right there. So I wonder how much trade back and forth on that.
Yeah, and what's weird about that part of the country is we actually hunt. We've got a place right there at Wilmot, or just east of Wilmot, kind of between Wilmot and Eudora there. And what's crazy is we rarely kill ducks out of the north or the south. Right there is, for whatever reason, those ducks move east-west. So, but you've got overflow there. You got that big sanctuary to overflow. You got the Mississippi River right there. So those ducks do a lot of trading back and forth between the big river sanctuaries and ag fields. We very rarely can sit there and look in the north and kill migrators. A lot of it is ducks that get in the area, find it, and then start using it and going east-west. So it's kind of a bizarre thing. I've hunted places like that where it's a lot of east-west movement, but not near as strong as that area of North Louisiana, South Arkansas is. It's kind of an interesting place, which really changes kind of the way you hunt, because you know that those days where the wind is is generally southwest or northeast, where it ain't really much, you know that because the way those ducks move up there, those actually help you. And the strong migrating winds are kind of like, we can let it rest. And if some come over, they'll see the ducks and get in there with them, and we'll hunt them next week. But it's really because it's WRP anyway, so it's a place they can go lay up, get out of the weather. So, we generally hunt it on the days after the front, not the days on the front. Whenever you get them high blue skies, your wind kind of slicks off. It's really good hunting then. So, but when we got the place, we didn't know that. We was just like anybody else. Oh boy, front blowing in, you got to get up there, and after getting your tail whooped by them things, you learn. You're like, okay, I see what y'all doing.
I was glad to hear you say about them high blue skies, because they're mine too. Yeah,
amen. They cause a duck to lose his mind in WRP, and about 10, 12, 15-year-old WRP, they absolutely lose all good sense. And I'm just glad that I haven't yet. So,
So Justin, I got to ask you the question. You said you follow the State of Waterfowl series, and you being from Louisiana, you hear all the rumblings of, what's going on in the world of waterfowl. Where are the ducks is the big question. In South Louisiana, if you followed our series, in my opinion, there's a world of issues that we have from habitat, and we have the data to back it up. But what do you think's going on, and what are some of the changes you've seen in North Louisiana?
Well, I mean, that's a loaded question, and there's going to be people that hear my response that get upset, and I don't really care because it's just from my observations. But Louisiana, point blank, period. I've hunted here. When I started duck hunting was in what everybody would say were probably the glory days of Louisiana duck hunting, that mid to late 90s. You could set your watch by mallard ducks coming off that Mississippi River in North Louisiana. I mean, there was really no reason to go anywhere till 8 o'clock. But from 8 to 10, you was about to burn your gun barrel off every day. Those days are gone. And now we have a smarter duck. Now, and my hat's off to the ducks for patterning humans as well as we've patterned them, because that seems to be what has happened here is they know these old clubs here are, daylight to 12 o'clock and you're out. And 12 o'clock, 12:01, you look up and there's just black clouds of ducks over their farm and all of that. But those people still hunt to 12 o'clock regardless on bad days and no good days when you shouldn't go. So the ducks that do come in there and roost, they run out every day instead of letting them sit there. And to me, the amount of pressure that the humans have put on the ducks have made them the way that they are. Are there less ducks? No. Do they receive more pressure? Absolutely they do, because a lot of places have even lifted time restrictions and they hunt them all day. Like when I go visit my brother up in Jonesboro, Arkansas, if it's daylight, you can step outside and hear shotguns going off. So these ducks never get a break, and then they wonder why they don't hang around. Well, you start shooting at me, I ain't going to hang around either. I'm going to find me a better mousetrap at some point, so whatever that may be, go back north, go back south, go east, go west, go wherever, but I ain't staying here. That's for sure. So I just think, along with a lot of wide scale habitat change, we're hunting different ducks than we hunted back in those days. There's, back in the days growing up in North Louisiana, there was rice grown, but it wasn't to the level that it is now. There are no more cotton fields left in North Louisiana to amount to anything. So every field here grows some kind of grain that a duck can eat. It grows rice, corn, soybeans. So there's way more food, where your ducks used to be pretty concentrated in the areas that could grow, that would have rice or some kind of grain. And now they can go wherever they want to, especially on a big water year. There's food for them everywhere. Why they don't have to come to Granddaddy's duck blind. There's just a lot of things. And hunters have gotten smarter too on the fact of, we'll use this 100 acres to plant, not harvest, and have as a sanctuary area. We won't drive by them, and that way we can ensure that we keep ducks all year long. And I don't blame them for that. You give me 100 acres I can afford to do that on, absolutely I'd do it. So, for us personally, we've started doing things a little different. like first split, you're done at 8:30, whether you got them or you ain't. Get in, get out, shoot the first 24 ducks that come in and get out of there, whether they're shovelers, teal. We're not sitting there waiting, because we know for the longevity of our season in North Louisiana to sustain huntable ducks all year, we got to get in, get out, limit the pressure, and give them as much time unmolested as we can absolutely give them. And, that came just from practice and seeing, and blue wing season, perfect example. The limit's now 6, right? Well, we still have a self-imposed limit of 4. Once everybody's got 4, we're done. It's, and you may get to 6 because the last bunch may be 15 and you kill them all. And then all of a sudden you got a six bird, 5-man limit or whatever. But when we get to whatever, we generally hunt with 4 or 5 people. So when we get to 20 or 24, we're gone. 16 to 20, because that's a good duck hunt. I don't have to kill a limit every day to have a good duck hunt. And in our job, much like Jimbo will tell you, once I know I've got the footage I need for this hunt to go up wherever to make our partners happy and to drive viewers to our stuff, then I'm out anyway. Because what else am I going to do? I'm going to get good stuff that I probably won't use. So it's just becoming a smarter, to me, just a smarter hunter. Just do and give back to the birds for crying out loud. Give them time off. I mean, them things, not only they got to worry about us, they got to worry about owls, hawks, you name it. Everything's hunting them. They're in the way of food chain flows. They on down there, and so when you're being hunted by everything, the more you can help them. To me, I feel the better off the bird is. You're helping the resource, and ultimately, you have, in my mind, a more successful hunt. Which this day and age, what is a successful hunt for me? If everybody can kill 3 or 4 ducks, I consider that an extremely successful hunt. If you can walk out of there with somewhere between 15 and 20 ducks, why in the world do you need any more? Trust me, I used to make the piles and stack them up, and I wouldn't leave till I got my 6. But those days are behind me. And I think it's kind of a young person's deal, and the older you get, the more you get into that. But I also think that, social media has made it where if you ain't got a pile and if it ain't green, then you ain't doing it, and it's the same thing that the deer hunting world suffers from. If he's not 7.5 years old and, 152 inches, why in the world are you shooting? We've become our own worst critic. We helped breed this, we did. And now it's our job to fix it. So that's what we try to show to do, and that's why we show the duck hunting. Yeah, it's fun and it's great. But like Jimbo was talking about earlier, you know what else is really cool? Sitting in that duck blind with 4 or 5 of your friends, or maybe even people you don't know, and cooking a pan of biscuits, or sitting there and investing in somebody else's life outside of worried about raising up and shooting another duck. So it's you kind of got to show. Our job is more now about the experience than to try and make a pile. Our pile's fun. Yeah, I've been a part of many of them, and I've reached up there and can't touch your shotgun barrel. It's so fun. But at the end of the day, that's not what duck hunting is about. And
Agreed.
Here, if we can get 2 mallards down in the trees, two bunches of mallards down in the trees on the morning, I'm high-fiving and walking away with a grin on my face, a big all right, let's go, boys. I'm good. I've seen all I need to see. And, it's a different mindset that you have to consciously make an effort to control. Because if not, you can get sucked back into that, hey, well, my buddy and them killed 20 yesterday, so we got to kill 22 today. And, it's pride, it's greed. There's a lot of human traits that have been around since Genesis that still get involved in it, So I think it's our jobs, as figures or whatever you want to call us in the hunting world to show that that's not always the case. And but when the days are good, sit back, turn your hat around, and hold on and have a good time. So.
No, I have to say I agree with all of that. And I think along with it, we got smarter ducks because we've created smarter hunters. Something we've all been a part of, better calls, better callers, better call instruction, passing on that knowledge, and better looking decoys, more lifelike looking decoys. Not that we ain't no smarter than those that come before us, but the information world is easier to get it out there and easier for people to try to learn. And sitting in our seats, you're trying to gain friends and partners. So you're trying to help educate people as you move forward to try to gain their business. That I guarantee you, we got a whole bunch of the same customers. I bet you if you compare the email list, you'd see a lot of the same names and addresses pop up in the system. So everybody's learning, and they take a piece from y'all. They take a piece from us. They take a piece from Doug and Casey, and they all plug in. And even though there's less of us than there was 40 years ago, we're more effective and we travel more and we go to ducks more. So that increases that pressure. It's kind of a conundrum that when you look at federal duck stamp sales on a national level compared to the mid-'70s, we're selling half the federal duck stamps we did in the mid-'70s. But you take Arkansas's duck stamp sales, for example, what used to be 50,000 is now 100,000. So we've doubled the pressure within the state. So we are putting more pressure on ducks with less people nationwide, but more concentration, and that's, and then you add to that, you hit on it, wintering bird distribution is widening. So you mentioned there ain't near the cotton there used to be. Now everybody's got a food source. Everybody's flooding fields. And a lot of the same thing happens here. So yeah, I agree with everything you said.
And
well said.
If you recall, Jim, back at our original State of Waterfowl meeting at Gross Savon, we actually had the numbers of acres in Louisiana that was changing in the rice world from southern Louisiana to northern Louisiana. And we were just talking about rice acreage. I didn't even begin to think about soybeans and the other grains that are still duck food. We just focused on rice. So
right.
That's what, and then that's Louisiana alone. How many changes are happening all the way up the flyway. So definitely a widespread landscape change, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and let's not forget either, our tools today are way better than they've ever been. When I started hunting, standing in waist deep, knee deep water, you'd freeze to death. I don't care what you had. And you wasn't going to make it till 12 o'clock most days. And now with the waders and everything, you can stay out there like standing in shorts and tennis shoes inside your house and never have to worry about anything. Our guns are better. Our ammo's better. Chokes are better. So we are a much more effective hunter on the ducks that are surviving. So, there's just which is all a part of the process. It's all, it's just, everything is better, and I tend to think that, looking back on it now, we're still right in the middle of the glory days of duck hunting. There's never been more of them, and I'm thankful for everyone. Would you like to see more mallards in North Louisiana? Absolutely. But you realize overall, when you do it as long as we have, that mallard is a pretty lazy duck, and unless something forces him to go, he ain't going. And I see a lot of that in my life too. So I don't know that I can fault him. It's just, it is what it is. And there's food, there's water, and it's everywhere now. And, so be it. It used to be the Kansas, Oklahoma area was the greatest secret in duck hunting. We didn't dare talk about it. Nobody talked about it. But then them pesky video cameras got involved for us to make a living. And, what you had to do. And now, you go to a public boat ramp out in Kansas and you're like, dang, is this dang Jason Aldean concert or what's going on around here? It's like, what in the heck? So, so it is. And people have devoted more time to chasing waterfowl. There are less of us, but the people that are bought into it are fully in. Which is, we kind of got in that turkey call business, and turkey hunting's cheap. You can use granddaddy's shotgun, a box of shells will last you 2 years and everything. But when you make that investment into waterfowl, that's a pretty steep hill to climb right off the chute. So you better figure out if you're ready for it. And most of them are, and they chase them till they burn smooth out. Now we burn them any of them out around here. Don't get me wrong. We're like, yeah, get you some of this, but for the most part, they got pretty good staying power, they spend a lot of money, and I can't blame them for wanting to get the most out of the money that they invested in.
We talk about our equipment being better and everything else. Our research and our technology is getting a lot better too. Justin, did you have the opportunity to tag along and put on any transmitters this year? I know we were talking about it back before the freeze.
No, I never got to. The only things I've done this year is I've helped band some doves here locally, and then a couple of wood duck nets. So, which, for me personally, as good at groceries as both of them are, both of them seem to have a lot of juveniles this year. So that's a good thing for all of us. But that's all I've been able to do this year. But man, if the opportunity comes next February without a deadgum mega blizzard, I'll come up there and sit right beside you. I think that would be a lot of fun. I really, the nerd in me has to do that. Like that would be a really cool thing. So I appreciate y'all posting everything that you do, because I sit there and watch them. I'm like, are they coming here? They going? No. Deadgum, so it's like, it's just really cool to follow along with that. And I think they're doing a great job with that research. And really, if the hunter is smart enough to look at it, are teaching us a lot about ducks, and it's going to make us an even better hunter than we are now. So then we're going to have to deal with those that have a PhD. Right now, they all got master's degrees, and we're about to give them a PhD in avoidance. So, it is what it is.
That's the point too. That as we get better, they get smarter. So that, proof that evolution is ongoing. We're making them smarter as we get smarter. Just shows you Mother Nature and the big man upstairs are pretty good at taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jimbo, just recently, Jimbo, you and I were talking about all the black and white photos there in our lodge, and you post one, and everyone's like, "Oh man, look, they're not even using camo and they're killing ducks." And yeah, they weren't, but at the time they were using the best boots, the best jacket, the warmest clothes. That was the tip of the spear at that point. We've just gotten a whole lot better since, and Mother Nature's continued up her game as well.
Yeah, talking about those pictures, Casey, and I don't think anybody does a better job of your family from documenting the history. I know the last time I was at your lodge, it's really cool to walk through there and look at all the old photographs that you guys got, and the stuff you do on Instagram is pretty incredible that you've got access to that many pictures. I know I've got a few of my dad from back in the 50s, but it's nowhere near the collection that you guys have. So kudos to you, your family, for keeping those things around all these years.
We were very fortunate, and I still consider myself lucky to be on here with guys like Justin and Jimbo. Continue to create content, is what we call it today. But eventually, my kids and grandkids will have some of that stuff to look at and hang on to that culture. And it just, I don't know, it all comes back to culture. I think it's the same thing we're all sitting here today talking about it.
I want to add to that a little bit. I'm on the board of the museum here, Museum of the Grand Prairie here in town. And the lady that's the curator up there sent me an article that her grandmother wrote from the 1920s about her and two or three families took a houseboat trip leaving St. Charles, Arkansas, down to White. Names have changed over the years, but somewhere way down White River. And this was 1923 or 4, so it would be before the actual original White River Refuge was formed. So it's probably somewhere down in there just before the mouth of the White hits Mississippi. And it was interesting, her talking about that, going down there to deer hunt and duck hunt. And I asked and they talked about taking the pictures and whatnot. And this lady was writing for Sports Field or Field and Stream or somebody. And I asked her, she referenced a couple pictures, and she emailed me the pictures she could find today. And to your exact point, Case, and you could tell these people, now this is 1920s. Yeah, you couldn't tell what brand it was, but you could see in the boat the tents, the heaters, their guns. It was top shelf equipment for the time. You could just tell by looking at it. And these folks probably, they live like that. They showed a tent camp. I was like, man, I could go stay there. How cool would that be? They talked about killing deer and killing ducks and killing squirrels. And I'm like, man, what a trip for 2 weeks in the woods. Talking about when they left in November. I forget the dates, like November, right around Thanksgiving time. I'm like, those are still prime dates today for ducks and deer. So some things just haven't changed. Just the way we just got new tools, like Justin said. We got new and better tools.
Yeah, but to Justin's point earlier, and I think it's great to hear him talk about that and shed what he calls his nerd background there. But the one thing that we can control really well is hunting pressure. And Justin, I don't think you can preach that enough. We're the same way. We cut off with our clients at 9:00. We are coming out whether we kill ducks or not, and you can prepare all that you want, and Mother Nature is going to turn all that up, mix it up. But the one thing you can absolutely control is how much pressure you put on the resource. So, man, that's just I can talk about that all day, but people need to really look at themselves and weigh those options and realize, like you said, go when it's going to be good, take some days off, and let them rest.
That is so huge, Casey, and I know even at Gross Savon, we learned this a long time ago. Our guides do not shoot a limit of ducks. So if you look at a 60-day duck season times 6 ducks, per guide, it doesn't take long to do the math on how many ducks we don't shoot every year. And I'm a firm believer that if we didn't do that, we wouldn't make the season as successful as we do, because those extra ducks, if you got it, and Justin mentioned it earlier, we've seen it in our own lodge with teal season. When we had the 4 teal limit, we were gold. We shot a limit every day of teal season when it was 4. The year it went to 6, you're now talking about staying in the blind from 8:00 to 10:00 just to kill a couple more birds. And the very same group of customers that come in, they kill their 8, they're high-fiving, eating breakfast, talking about killing limited breakfast. The following year, they may have killed 11, but they were still 1 bird short of their limit, and that's all they're talking about. We didn't get them. We missed them. But yet they killed more birds than they did last year. So it's a mental thing, and I think if you can't say enough about how much pressure affects the birds. And I know just staying in that blind for us an extra hour is huge.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just like with the 4 that we shoot for teal season, it's just way easier with 4 guys to kill 16 than it ever is to kill 24. And like, if we're all being 100% honest with ourselves outside of you, Doug, because y'all get them down there and they eat a lot of rice and get cleaned up, and they're a little bit better table fare. But these stagnant water rascals we up here chasing, that's landed on every cess pond and mud hole and bar ditch and everything, when you walk up to them, you can smell them. So like something that smells like that ain't gonna be real good to eat. Like, them blue wings up here take a lot of distractions to make them quality table fare. But you really gotta step up your game on your bacon and your jalapenos. That, like, you can't even get away with the cheap stuff then. So it's just kind of like, but as you go later in the season, they get better, but all that's diet dependent. And they up here eating snails and worms and whatever, baby grinnell, whatever they can get their little beaks on, because there just ain't much water up here to get them down to you. And that's why I always am like, man, why y'all want to kill more of these things? They really ain't. They ain't no green wing. Like, they ain't him, and they ain't no Woody. So, are they fun? Absolutely. Because what makes them fun to me is they come in big bunches, and they will work the paint off your decoys. If you have a little patience, you can get them suckers right over the hole and kill every one of them. But it's that third pass that most people ain't willing to give them. But if you can get them to make that third pass, they generally go ahead and put their brakes on and stop right there in front of it. So that, to me, that's the draw of blue wings. Plus, you get to knock the rust off your shotgun. If the dove season wasn't quite as good or whatever else, you get ready and primed up for them big ducks that are coming later. So, but it's teal season, it don't hurt me to only hunt about half the days, because who wants to go stand out there and sweat and avoid cottonmouths and West Nile for 16 days? So it is what it is on that regard.
Well, guys, as usual, it's hard to believe, but we're already approaching an hour. Is there any last comments or subjects that anybody wants to ask Justin while we got him?
Man, I just thought of a good one. To talk to Justin about, because I get this one all the time. And this is a deep one. We may have to go back for another segment, unless you want to run long. So, being in the call business, everybody asks, man, what kind of new stuff you got coming out? Where do you see the future going, Justin? Not necessarily new product wise, but how many different kinds of mouse traps can we build and be successful?
Well, Jim, I think you'd agree with me that we just been reshaping and repolishing the same mousetrap all for about the last 12, 15 years. So, I don't really know where it can go. I mean, we've tried adding more reeds, taking reeds away, changing reed material. I mean, it's the same thing, everybody, because innovation to where we've gotten our duck calls is, I mean, you eventually hit a brick wall because you're never going to use electronic for ducks. That's just out. So there's nothing. So how do you make them more user friendly? And that's been our deal, is to make them as easy to blow for a 6-year-old to pick it up and eventually be able to sound like a duck on it without knowing a whole heck of a lot. So we just try to continually make them where they take less air. Now, the ones that, we all use are still the old Duck Commander style, just like you're blowing with the Mondo and stuff like that, where you see the little dots up there in your eyes when you get done, and, you're swatting at them because you've just about choked yourself out trying to blow them. But, for the mass consumer, because what we're trying to do is just get a new hunter in. And if they can pick up a duck call and make it sound like halfway like a duck, then good. Then they'll keep that one for a couple of years, and then maybe they go buy an R&T once they figure it out or whatever. There's been a lot of people refer to us as like the gateway drug into duck hunting. Like, it's just kind of, then they get in there and start working their way up the chain, which is fine with us, So we try to make a really good duck call at a really good price and move on. And, but I don't know what else we can do with them. I mean, unless they start, holding 3 shells too, I don't really know what else we can do with them rascals. It's just kind of, it feels like we're at a brick wall, or a ceiling as far as duck calls go.
Mm-hmm.
But
just always got to be on that cutting edge. I think y'all could bring the old Reacher back out and do pretty good with it.
Yeah, we brought him back a couple of years ago, and we did a limited run of 1,000, and we sold out of them in about 4 days. So
I don't doubt that.
Yeah, we did the cut down reacher last year and did the same thing. So that cut down reacher was actually what I learned to blow on. So that was kind of my project. And I was like, now hold on, now we made it. And I was like, this don't sound like it used to. So we got in there and got to whittling on the mold and everything, and then we finally got it back right. And man, that thing just, I don't know, it's like going back to my childhood. Whenever I reach down there and grab that kind of khaki colored piece of plastic, I look down, I go back to 1999. I'm like, heck yeah, man, way back here in the 1900s. Let's roll,
Well, that goes back to that culture and history and heritage tradition thing we was talking about earlier. It's just kind of a feel-good piece, like your favorite old shotgun. I know y'all work with different companies, but there's sometimes you go back to your gun case, and that one you started on just has a certain feel and smell to it that takes you back to another place and time.
And believe you me, I shoot a limit of ducks with him every year.
That's right.
Every time you grab that thing, it's just like mama's arms. It's just like, come on.
It just feels comfortable.
That's exactly right.
Well, here's the good news. It won't be long. We'll all get to do it again. And I'm starting to look forward to it.
Amen to that.
Yeah, that's
the only thing I got left is when's this cookout going to happen?
I can't do it till tomorrow.
Man, it's a couple days off for Saturday. It works then, right?
Yeah.
We need to figure that out, make that happen.
Oh, hey, don't you dare me.
I'll volunteer to help cook.
Me too. We'll get some of these old briar goats and cook them up too. That'd be fine.
I'm in. Just like what Doc Holliday say in the movie Tombstone? I'm in.
Yeah.
Well, Justin, it's been an awesome time to visit with you. The only thing wrong with today's conversation is it didn't happen in a duck blind, because I'm sure we could sit forever and talk about this kind of stuff. So we also got to get a rod and reel in your hands. I know we talk duck hunting, but you like to catch fish too. I don't know if you call them crappie or sockeye up there, but I know you guys are big into the white perch scene, and I know you ain't scared to reel in a bass every now and then either.
I'll catch anything that bites my cricket. I am not scared of it. I like something tugging on the other end of that string. It don't matter what he looks like. So I treat that like I do duck season. First come, first serve. You bite that cricket, you fair game.
Well, maybe we need to get you on a tour there, and you can swing through Gros Savon and do the bass and redfish deal, and then we'll get up to Cason's there and shoot a few ducks and maybe a specklebelly or two. I
was going to ask you if you thought you had enough room for another double wide down there at Gros Savon. I may just move on in down there.
Well, speaking of double wides, if you'd offered it, I might have took it after the hurricane last year. So we're just now recovering from Hurricane Laura. So we actually moved back in the lodge last Wednesday for the first time, and we started alligator season. We're not 100%. We still don't have all the furniture and paintings on the walls like we had before, but we are serving the same great meals and having great conversation in the evenings and catching fish and catching alligators right now. So got a big night coming up Friday night with Teal season coming on. So our cast and blast will crank up. So we're really excited to be back in the lodge. And I guess with speaking of hurricanes, we need to take a moment too and think about our fellow citizens and friends and family down in Southeast Louisiana. I know they took a big hit from Ida the other day. So Cason, you were kind of in the path of that there for a while till it kind of made a hook to the right. So it looks like all of us here on the call tonight had avoided Ida. So thank goodness for that. So
yeah, I was sitting there nervous about watching that rascal because I knew that track up through Cuba. I was like, oh, not good for us. I've seen this story play out, and then it. Thank the Lord. I guess the Lord just realized y'all and us didn't need another one of them rascals. The 2 last year was enough because once Laura got done with y'all, she just went ahead and snorted right through here. And all our oak trees that were heavy with acorns just went ahead and bedded on down. They said, no, I'm good. I wasn't made for 75 mile an hour wind. And, but yeah, I got a couple of buddies in South Louisiana that New Orleans and the Madisonville and Port Sulphur area and all that. And they took it on the chin pretty good. And, our thoughts and prayers are with them. I know we're doing some stuff with our church here, getting them supplies, water, gas, all that kind of stuff, everything that we can do, because until the professionals get done doing their job, there ain't a lot that folks like us can do. I don't know nothing about electricity. I run chainsaw, but until we get to that point where we can go help with that, there's really not a lot we can accomplish down there. So we're just donating supplies and all that kind of good stuff. But man, I'll tell you this though, everybody if you on that South Louisiana coast, you are a tough, resilient rascal, and they will come back stronger, just like you guys are over in Lake Charles area and all that. So and they're the nicest people in the world. I've met them all over, and those folks down there are as good as gold. So our thoughts and prayers for North Louisiana are for sure with all those folks down there. That's a given.
Well, we certainly appreciate it, and we thank all you guys for participating on this podcast today. And everybody that's out there listening, man, we just can't say enough about sharing this with all your friends, getting the word out. There's some great conversation to be had and a lot to talk about with the State of Waterfowl. So for you guys that's got Teal season to open up this weekend, good luck to everybody. And I hope we have some successful hunts, and look forward to seeing y'all on the next podcast.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Be sure to invite your friends to listen, share, and subscribe to this podcast. We all want to know, what is the State of Waterfowl?